This week we're leaving the world of novels to talk about a short story collection. This is a debut story collection from Adam McOmber. It's called This New and Poisonous Air. This is a pretty short collection. It's only about 200 pages, made up of about 10 fairly short stories. This is a book about history, and not just because some of the stories are historical fiction, but about the past you carry with you and the events that we try to piece together and aren't always successful. And lots of these stories cover a lot of ground, plot-wise, in very few pages. While some collections can focus on events that take place over an hour, or maybe a couple days, most of the stories in this collection take place over months, even years. The blurbs on the back cover of this book set me up for mystery and intrigue, with a weighty gang of name drops including E.T.A. Hoffmann, Jorge Luis Borges, and Edgar Allan Poe. And secrets do abound in this collection, frequently related to closeted homosexuality. For most of these characters, growing up means straightening out. But when reality doesn't satisfy, these characters use fantasy to keep their love alive. Like an automatic garden with a human replica made of moving parts and glass eyes. Or a collection of made-up stories about a noble knight and his loyal squire. Always told in retrospect, the intimacy in these stories hovers off the page. More like a dream than a personal history. Often, the story that unfolds is a long-buried secret, and since the passion is in the past, the characters don't dwell on the particulars. Which means that although gothic in subject matter, you'll be sorely disappointed if you're looking for a reincarnation of the lush prose of Poe. Instead, McOmber's style is simple, straightforward, relying on events to speak for themselves rather than draw us into the darker details. There is one story that ends with a woman surrendering to her heart, though, but it isn't for love of another woman. Miriam's been mapping out cemeteries in London and finds herself drawn in by the strange music of the dead. That's right, she hears dead people! Is that still funny? This story concludes with the only moment of present tense in the entire collection, as she sits in her parlor listening to the graveyards. A longing body made of loving sound. Ooh! But ultimately what these stories all have in common is the idea of escape. Escape. In Beneath Us, Miriam grows anxious when she doesn't realize that she's been crying until she touches her face and finds that it's wet. She immediately starts to fear that she's become so detached she may have lost her soul. But the question is listening for dead people an escape from the emptiness she feels? Or is it the emptiness that leads her there? And who's trapped in The Man of History, the story of two men who bond over tales of a noble knight and his squire? Is it the old man obsessed with the stories squirreled away in his house? Or is it his more than friend who leaves him for a married life in the suburbs? Escape can be a tricky thing in these strange accounts, and sometimes the escape turns out to be another kind of trap, or a certain thing that looks like a trap turns out to be an escape. That was the debut story collection from Adam McOmber, This New and Poisonous Air. I'll see you next week.